This is the Bigger Pockets Podcast, show 251.
You're listening to Bigger Pockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
What's going on, everybody? This is Josh Dorkin, host of the Bigger Pockets Podcast, here with my co-host, Mr. Scott Trench. What's going on, Scott?
Not much. You guys might not hear it, but I actually did the intro today, and Josh just shut me down real hard so he could do it.
That's what happens when you are the co-host. You get shut down by the host.
Ah, gotcha. Well, how are things going, Josh?
As The Rock used to say, know your role and shut your mouth. No, that is what The Rock used to say, and sadly, I actually know that because for a minute or two, I did watch some wrestling.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you? Were you a wrestling guy? Yeah, I mean, you're a rugger.
I am a rugger, and I assume that those wrestlers must sustain injuries like we do in rugby.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys can see if you're listening to the show on audio, but I actually have a second black eye that I got from rugby in the same eye. I didn't reopen.
The exact same place as the
exact same place.
Black eye.
I've even got 5 stitches again. And no, I didn't reopen my old cut. I got a brand new cut, like maybe 3 or 4 millimeters away from the first one.
For a smart guy, you sure are not so smart sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know how I sustained the exact same injury twice in 1 month.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, man. Well, listen, we got a cool show today. I know you're super excited about it, and I think we should get this thing going here. So before we do, let's do today's quick tip. Nice. That was great. Thanks for the help.
Absolutely, just the tip. Today's guest, Eric, is the kind of guy that I like to network with in my local market. Someone who's been doing it for a long time, self-manages, and really knows the ins and outs of real estate investing. These are the guys that can answer almost every question that you can imagine. So today's quick tip is to go out and find that guy on Bigger Pockets. Find the guy who self-manages a bunch of properties that's in your area and that has done it for years in a row, and go network with that person. Take him out to coffee, take them out to lunch, whatever you got to do, so that when you have that question, when you have that problem come up in your business, you know who you can call that will be able to point you in the right direction. These guys like Eric are the types of friends you want to have in this business.
How does somebody find a guy like Eric really quickly?
So, you're going to have to do some trial and error here. But the first place I start is I look on Bigger Pockets and I go to the local forum pages. So the pages local to your city or the closest one. And then I'd go and I'd just scour that and I'd read a lot of posts from a lot of members around there. Look for the guy who has hundreds or thousands of posts, and then go out and take a few of them to lunch and find out which ones actually have the experience and can talk the talk and walk the walk.
Awesome. That's great. Cool. All right. Well, good tip. So guys, this is show 251 of the Bigger Pockets Podcast. You can check out the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show 251. All right, guys. Today's guest, Eric Drenckhahn, is a real estate investor who really is the epitome of the DIY landlord. This guy knows landlording inside and out. And if you're interested in getting started, or if you're in the game of rental properties and you're looking for just additional knowledge, some great info, great ideas, tune in. This guy knows what he's doing. Let's get this thing started. Eric, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you here.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Yeah, very, very exciting. You've been writing for Bigger Pockets for a while now, huh?
I have. It's been a bit since I've written an article, but I've written quite a few articles there, and just things got kind of tied up with, who knows, rental property and retirement and that. But it's always a great site to be on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I tell you what, Scott, I know, was a bit fanboyish when he was on the phone with you earlier. I told him to settle down, and I think he's taken it the other way and is completely silent here. But I think we'll get him to pick up. Scott, you can speak.
Whoa. No, first of all, Eric comes on the show the first time, and he's covered in paint because he's living exactly what he's talking about when he talks about real estate investing. He just came from rental property where he's painting and doing God knows what on his rental property. So I'm looking forward to it. This guy is living what he preaches on our blog.
Perfect.
Living the dream.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into this thing. Let's get into the story here. So, how did you get started? Why real estate, and how'd you end up getting started?
It's somewhat of an accident. My dad was actually in real estate. He was a broker and had a company, and that maybe was part of it. But how I actually got rental properties, quite a few years ago, I had some false starts with some adventures with my dad as well that we lost money on. But having said that, when I first started, I had a couple duplexes in the year around 2000. My father had a stroke, and I had to take over his properties and pay the nursing home. And anyway, I had these two properties that, you could say had 4 units, one tenant, big mortgages, and we had to either sell them or get them rented. So I decided, let's get them rented. And it kind of went from there. And then in 2008, I was starting to buy, I wanted to buy more properties. And I started looking at, properties, and I thought, geez, if I just bought a property, and even if I had to feed it $100 a month, it's always going to be worth more, right? That was kind of the way it was back in 2003, 4, 5. And then I started looking more into actual investing rather than just what most people do, just go to the MLS and buy one. And when I started looking at that, I realized that to make money, you need to have positive cash flow, first of all.
What? Stop it.
And so, then I started looking at properties, and around 2007, I saw this one fourplex that I looked at. And I told my realtor, and it was listed for $385, right? And I told my realtor, geez, I'm having a hard time coming up with a number with a 3 in front of it to make an offer. So she goes, well, make an offer at $300,000 then, which I still thought was too high. But I made the offer, and it sold for $380,000. So I made a $300,000 offer, and it sold for $380,000. And so we kept looking at it.
So that didn't work.
That didn't work. But you know what? If you don't make offers, you don't make it happen.
All right, let's talk about that for a second, because before you dive too deep on the story here, I think it's a really good chance to dive in on this. So, a property is not worth what somebody is willing to sell it, is saying it's worth. It's worth what somebody's willing to pay for it, right? And a property is only worth what you're willing to pay for it to you. So
exactly
that property.
And I'm in it to.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I'm in it to make money for me, not make money for them.
Correct. So, if you're a new investor and you're hearing this, pay very special attention. Just because it's listed at $385, Eric thinks it's worth $300, and maybe not even that much. He could go and chase that property, which is what a lot of people do. They get emotionally attached, particularly novices, and they start to chase the price and say, well, I'm desperate. I got to get my hands on a property, or, oh, I love this thing. You fall in love with it, whatever it is. And then you end up paying way the heck more than it's worth, and there goes your cash flow. There goes your profit, right?
Exactly. And that happened to a lot of investors just prior to 2008. They were chasing properties, and of course, then eventually they lost.
Yeah, right on. Well, continue.
So anyway, so that property didn't work, but I kept looking at properties, and that just happened to be about the same time as the 2008 crash started. And so then I was able to buy almost an identical property to that one that I made an offer of $300 for about $318. Still wasn't as cheap as I liked it, but it was one of those things that $318 still wasn't bad. Yeah. And what I was looking for is a 15% cash on cash return. So even though it wasn't my ideal number, it was still pretty good cash flow. Yeah. It was vacant. Matter of fact, when I looked at it, and people need to understand that these properties that you buy are not necessarily going to be pristine condition and pristine, because it was 20 below outside. It's here in Minnesota. It's 20 below. And inside the building, it was 20 below. Nice. Because there was no heat, right? And I could see copper pipes split with icicles hanging down them. And and that's the ones I can see. I don't know what's going on out there with the ones I can't see, the ones in the wall and everything else. But you know what? We made the offer, and that was the first fourplex in 2008 that I bought. And since then, I bought one in 2009, which was for $269, better condition, and I bought one at $269, even better condition, and it kind of went from there. So every year from 2008, 9, 10, 11, and 12, I bought another fourplex, and we did some flips along the way. Did a flip in 2012. But everything was bought in a creative manner. It wasn't just off the MLS. All right. That's another key.
So really quick, Scott, what market are you in?
Minneapolis, St. Paul, Eagan, Minnesota, whatever.
Okay, right on. Sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
Midwest.
So I have a question kind of going back to when you first got started here in 2000. Can you tell us a little bit about those first two deals? I know you had some experience with your father there, but what was your financial position and your goals and your lifestyle like going into those deals, and how'd you get those? And then why did you wait another 8 years before buying again?
Damn, this kid is good. Brandon Turner, you're out of here.
They were kind of, once again, a little bit of accidental thing. And I wasn't really thinking anything about retirement or financial independence, or it was just like, what are we going to do with these things? Do we get rid of them? Do we sell them? Do we, because my father actually went in a nursing home, right? So you got to do something with the asset. And so it was kind of an accidental thing. And I thought, okay, we'll just rent them out and see what happens. So somewhat it was an accidental thing. And it seemed to work. And then, I was having decent cash flow off these, even though, like I said, what I did do is I refinanced my house to pay off the mortgages on these properties. So then they were cash flowing real well because they were paid off. But of course, my own personal cash flow was a little bit less. And just kind of went from there. And then as I started looking at more, and I was looking at different business opportunities, I had an IT job, so I was making pretty decent money, and I was living well below my means, and not because it was any kind of thing that I was trying to do. It just made sense, right? I mean, why do I want to go into credit card debt and pay interest I work for a bank, but to them greedy bankers.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do that. So, make a long story short, I had a pretty solid capital, enough capital in the bank. And, looking back, what probably made a difference, I went to one of these rah-rah seminars with, I went to a Dave Lindahl seminar. Actually, not necessarily a seminar with him, but I sent away for some of his books and started reading them. And some of his stuff is what got me to the idea of positive cash flow, 15% cash on cash return. And then I started looking for deals that would actually kind of make that happen. And it takes a while. I analyzed properties on LoopNet and the MLS, and not that I was going to buy them, but I would get the numbers, what the seller said they would do. And I would analyze the heck out of them. I must have analyzed 100 properties before I bought one, just as a practice.
Well, that's great. That's what people should be doing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back a second here. You had talked about on those first properties actually paying off the mortgage on the properties. Why did you do that? A lot of people would say that's a bad idea is to pay off those mortgages and make it so you're not leveraged, right? I mean, calling it cash flow because you've paid, you don't have a note on it. A lot of investors would argue that you're not cash flowing at all, or potentially not cash flowing. So how would you answer that? And I guess why do it that way?
Well, I had two mortgages and I consolidated them into one, and the interest rate was quite a bit cheaper being one, and being an owner occupied mortgage, then it was even cheaper yet. Right. So it was, and I can't remember what the interest rate was, on the original mortgage versus the mortgage that I wind up with. But I always thought that, your job could go away, right? Your tenants could go away. And if you don't have a mortgage, your property will probably still stay. You can always rent it out, and it's probably good to be leveraged if you want to really, expand. But, I try to be a little more conservative, and maybe it's the rabbit and the hare kind of thing, or I should say the tortoise and the hare kind of thing. But
sure,
it's almost better just to keep accumulating at a nice steady pace.
So how was it going through that 2007, 2008 crash? I mean, it sounded like your interest, your motivation really peaked in that 2007 period when you were going to these seminars and learning about stock investing, but you had these paid off properties, yet you didn't actually make your next purchase into 2008. Can you talk about your mindset going through that period with the market crash and how that affected your market?
Sure. The stock market crash, I was in the market in my 401k, but in my own personal investments, I had basically got out of the market in around 2002 or so. And so I wasn't really in the stock market, and the crash didn't really hurt me. And, I still had properties. So even though they might have been worth less, they were still, when you have one building, it doesn't matter what it's worth, you still have one building.
Yep.
Right. Now, when you go to sell it, then maybe that matters. But as far as, really didn't impact me that much, the real estate crash, other than to the positive where it allowed me to buy stuff. Didn't hurt me. And I knew that rental property, that people have to have a place to rent, right? And if I have a vacancy, I can always. I saw somebody on CNBC. I can't remember his name, but he was a big real estate guru that has millions of properties, whatever. And he said that you can always increase demand by lowering price, right? And that's actually something you learn in Economics 101 about the first 20 minutes of the class. And so I wasn't too worried about getting a property and being able to rent it, because you can always lower the price. And if you don't have a mortgage, and now my first property, I did have a mortgage, but I mean, the duplexes I didn't, but my first one that I bought, when I got ready to buy, I had a big mortgage, as a matter of fact. It was like $1,700 a month, and granted it was fourplex, so you get plenty of rents, but, you still got property tax on top of that. And, so it's a little bit nervous when you buy your first property.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, I know this was probably going to be Josh's question, but I'm going to steal it. What is your why behind this? What were you looking to do when going into this? What was your end goal? Were you working a full-time job and wanted to replace that income? Or
nice job, man. Way to jump in and actually steal right from the notes. I love that.
Absolutely. It was a great poach there of a question.
Wow. Okay.
That I'd like to think that back then I thought, build up, and eventually we'll be financially independent, and then we can, retire and live under the palm trees. But at that point, I was just thinking, well, this will give me another $1,000 a month for something, or whatever the number was, and I wasn't really thinking that, at some point I can retire and live on these. It was just, because I was working full time, and, I always maxed out my 401k, that kind of thing. And I always had different businesses on the side that would generate $1 here or $1 there. Because every hour you sit on the couch, you ain't making money.
There you go.
And anytime you can take that hour and turn it into something, right? And some people say, I'm not going to do that. It's only, I can hire it out for $10 an hour. But if you can get off your butt and do that thing, and even though you're only making $10 an hour, I was making six-figure incomes, but there was a lot of times I went out there and made less than $10 an hour, just because what else are you going to make during that hour, and maybe there was other more important things that I could have been doing, but, or more financially benefit, like for the future or whatever. But you got to keep, if you can turn every hour of your day into money, and that's what I was thinking with some of these rentals. It's like, let's get some, let's put my money to work. And at some point it just kind of became like, holy crap, there's enough here to live on.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a thing that, it's one more, and I'll have enough to live on. It was more like, geez, all of a sudden.
I love that. I love that mindset, because my time is worth X amount per hour. But if I go home and sit on the couch and watch Netflix for 3 hours, my time is worth $0 per hour. Instead, exactly. I could be out at my rental property, fixing up, painting, rehabbing, doing something that is adding value. So that marginal use of my time is not compared to the dollars per hour I make at work. It's compared to the dollars I would be making doing whatever leisure activity I was doing. So if I don't have something productive to do or something fun to do, might as well go ahead and go and build my business. I think that's a great mindset. I love it.
This coming from the guy who sits around watching Dancing from the Stars, but that's fine. That's fine.
Whoa.
So Eric, the argument, I hear the argument, and the counter to that is obviously, you should be spending your time and energy on the $100 an hour, the $500 an hour. So instead of watching Dancing from the Stars with Scott, and instead of going to the property and fixing it, you hire the guy and use that time to be finding other deals. But like to Scott's point, I mean, as long as you're being productive, there's nothing wrong, right? I mean, you don't always have to be productive either. The end of the day, the question is, what's your goal, right? What's your why? What are you trying to do this for? Like, and so I don't hear you saying, hey, I'm trying to build an empire here of, millions of dollars a year in cash flow. It sounds like you kind of started this thing you're working, and little by little, it's like, oh, well, this portfolio can actually replace my job potentially at some point. Maybe I'll keep going. Is that a fair assessment? And also, are you still working?
No, I actually quit July 5th, 2016. So a little over a year ago. That's when I left my job. Thank you.
Nice.
And, I quit a decent job, like I say, 6 figures, 401k, 10 holidays, 4 weeks of vacation, pension, the whole bit. So, it was quite a bit of, and by the way, for anybody who's getting ready to be financially independent and thinks, oh, I'm just going to quit your job, it's more of a mental exercise than a financial one, because this is the first job I ever quit, without having another one to go to.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit, and then when my boss said, are you sure? Because actually I was messaging him on our same time system, right, is what it works. And I sent him an email saying, I resign as of this date. And then he said, I got your email. I'm getting ready to submit it to HR. Are you sure? And up until I got the "Are you sure?" I was 1,000% sure. Right? But then he says, "Are you sure?" And it's just like anything. When the computer says, "Are you sure?" You got to just double check twice, because. Yeah. But then I said, "Yeah, that's what I want to do." So, haven't looked back. My stock portfolio has been going up, and actually I have more money than I spend, which is kind of nice. Yeah. But yeah, as I was accumulating properties, it was just that I was so busy, because I was working full time. And I'd buy a property and rehab it and rent it and do the apartment turns, all me. My girlfriend actually helped quite a bit too. She helps with the cleaning and some of the other things. But for the most part, it's me. And once in a while, I hire somebody to work with me if I have like one of the fourplexes I bought. I hired some folks to work with me. But every weekend, 8 o'clock in the morning, I was there. Every day after work. We get off work by the time I get home, it's 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'm at the property. Work till 8:39. And run to Menards or Home Depot or wherever, pick up supplies, and then I can't leave it in the back of my truck because it might rain, so I got to go back to the rental property at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, unload it, then come back home, and then do whatever you have to do, on with your life for about 15, 20 minutes, take a shower, go to bed, and sometimes I get up in the morning and the hour before work, run back to the rental property, maybe do a couple things that you can do. Yeah. So so my life was pretty busy until, and I didn't really have time to think about all what am I going to do here with this money, or what are my goals? It was just like, property would become available, and I think, geez, if the last one was a good deal and this one's even cheaper, then if the last one made sense to buy, then it makes sense to buy this one. Yeah. So then I would buy it. Yeah. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so you're working doing all this stuff. You quit your job.
Yeah.
Did you then fill your time with doing even more of this, or did you begin to actually enjoy some of that newfound free time that you had, or are you still getting up at 8 o'clock on a Saturday, going to your property to paint and fix stuff?
No, as a matter of fact, so my day, I still typically get up between 6 and 7,
Sure.
But generally I read the news and check my bank statements, make sure they match to what they should be with Quicken. And then, so I didn't really start painting today till it was after 11. And I painted for about 3 hours and maybe not even quite 3 hours, but, and I've been doing a lot of traveling, so when I first retired, first trip we went to was Branson, Missouri. So it's about,
nice
6 hours away. Actually, maybe it's a little more it's about 600 miles away. So we spent a week in Branson, and then so that was good. It was hot, but it was good. And it was a cheap vacation, relatively cheap, because we could drive there, and the shows are cheap. And then we did it again in December, because we want to kind of go out. It's like somebody tells you the ice is thick enough, but you can't just go out there and start jumping in the middle of the pond. Yeah. You got to kind of go little by little. And then so December we went to Branson again, nice. Thinking it might be a little warmer than Minnesota, but it really wasn't. January, we spent almost a full month in between Nashville and Florida. February, we went to Tucson. March, we went to Biloxi and New Orleans.
So you got the life. You got exactly what you wanted. And then in between, you're occupying your time working on your properties. Why do you do that today still? Obviously you can outsource some of that work. Do you just enjoy doing it? Do you like, you got nothing else to do and you want to spend your time doing that? And I'm not saying this in a bad way. I'm just, again,
right,
I'm just trying to understand, because there are a lot of people who do that, but a lot of folks out there will say, well, that's not necessarily a great idea.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And for me, first of all, everybody's got 24 hours a day. You got to do something. You can't sleep all day long, right? So you got to do something. So if I wasn't working on the rental properties, I would be doing something else maybe. But the rental properties, it gives you something to do. It's not really that hard. There's sometimes I do stuff that I'm not real keen on doing, but you got to do something. And I hate to leave $1 sitting on the table. That's one thing and I think, if somebody's going to make $50 an hour to paint or whatever, because if you hire a painter, granted, you can go to Craigslist and hire somebody, but if you hire a painting company, they're going to get you for 50, 60, $80 an hour or whatever when they're painting. They're probably going to paint faster than you maybe, but it's going to be expensive. Yeah. And I think, if I might as well do it and I'll save the money. Yeah. I bet I increase my annual income between managing the property myself and doing my own maintenance, doing my own property turns by at least $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that's huge money. That's decent money.
Yeah. And I think what that does is that reduces your risk on a lot of these properties too, right? So let's say that I'm a new investor and I come into it with your mindset of I'm going to do it myself and handle these expenses myself and manage property, improve it, do the maintenance, paint. That really reduces my risk of having a catastrophic cash flow event. It helps me increase my cash flow for the first few years. I love it. This is exactly the way I approached my properties for the first few years, although I'm starting to transition to doing a little bit of the work, getting that outsourced. A question for you, though. How did you learn how to do this kind of maintenance in the first place? Where did you develop that skill set?
Before that question, really quick, I just want to make sure that we're clear to anyone listening. If you do the work yourself, if you manage it yourself, or you do your own maintenance, you still better be accounting for that stuff when you're doing the evaluation of the property before the purchase, because you go and you buy a property and you assume that you're going to do the management instead of paying somebody 10%. At some point in time, there is a chance that you will want to have it managed, or you will need to have it managed. And if you have not accounted for it, that 10% suddenly comes in, you're in a lot of trouble. So,
that's 100% correct. So when I evaluate a property, I assume that there's going to be at least a 7% management fee. And most people, if they're doing single family houses, they should figure 10%.
Yeah.
Another one they should figure is a 5% vacancy rate.
Yep.
Nothing any less than 5%. And another expense that you don't always think about is a maintenance. Because, sure, you can figure out the light bill, you can figure out the taxes, you can figure out insurance, but maintenance is about 10% of the rents, because your roof wears out every year for 30 years, and then all of a sudden you need a new roof. Same with the HVAC system, same with the kitchen sink, same with the whatever. And a lot of people miss those expenses, and especially the management fee. And that's just bonus money. That's not money that it's bonus money in your pocket, but you should still factor it into the equation.
Yep.
Because if somebody's got a bunch of property that they're figuring a 0% management fee, hey, I got 24 that they can certainly manage for me if they're doing it for free.
Yep.
And this is why I think it's really important to always use the BiggerPockets calculators when you're analyzing these deals, because when I build my own spreadsheet or whatever, I'll forget those things. And at least with the calculators, you are forced to put in a number in there. If you put in 0 for vacancy, that's on you, but at least you're thinking about those numbers. So you always need to run through these and put those in. With regards to your comment on repairs, a lot of investors will split out repairs into repairs and then CapEx. So it sounds like you kind of lump those two together into that 10% number combined.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I do. And because it's simple, I guess, is probably because you really don't know what CapEx expense you're going to have. I mean, you might figure there's maybe it could go 5% or some kind of prorated thing, but you really don't know this year what you're going to have for a CapEx expense. And then secondly, as far as taxes wise, now you can do about $2,500 a year in expenses versus a true CapEx. But like appliances or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have two more questions for you about this DIY maintenance stuff. The first is, again, how did you learn how to do this and develop that skill set? And the second is, well, I'll get the second one after you answer that one.
Yeah. Well, YouTube's a great thing to have, right? Now, I already knew quite a bit about just home maintenance in general because I used to do stuff around my own house. So that helped as well. But I was going to actually have a guy help me paint. Actually, I was going to have him paint for me. And he was just a part-time handyman guy that didn't really work much. So I thought, well, geez, he can work on the weekend, you know. And he was like, oh, it's Memorial Day weekend. I don't want to paint today. And I thought to myself, well, I got this fourplex. I need to have painted because if I got to get renters in, I got to have it painted first, right? And I can't. My schedule can't be based upon his being able to work or not. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to paint myself. So I went in there and I told him I don't need you anymore. So I went ahead and just started painting. And that was the first start of my painting. But then, you know, it's just like anything. If everything builds on itself.
Yeah.
So now you did some painting. Well, now how about, do you know how to do sheetrock? Well, you know, sheetrock isn't any fun, but, you know, you put the mud on and you sand it off. And the first few times, maybe it takes longer than a professional guy, but then after a while, you're getting a little better. And, you know, changing a faucet isn't that hard, but it just, you know, once you change a faucet, maybe you can figure out how to change something else. So it's just kind of before you know it, you're pulling toilets and redoing, you know, shower valves and the whole bit. So, but yeah, YouTube is a tremendous help on finding any, you know, no matter what your problem is, working on a car, working on a house, somebody out there has dedicated their life to helping you fix that exact same problem that you're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
For free, and it's on YouTube, and it's got a bunch of likes, and it's great. That's exactly how I've done a lot of things in there.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, before your next question, Eric, I just want to jump on this one really quick. Why would somebody do DIY versus hiring out? I mean, I see your profile making sense, right? I'm a retiree. I don't have a lot to do. This you know, it's kind of fun learning these new skills and doing these things. Can you think of, you know, for the listeners who've never done this before, you know, why would they decide to do it totally DIY versus, you know, hiring manager and contractors? Is, you know, can you make the case for one or the other?
Well, as far as doing it yourself, you know, like say a simple thing like changing a water heater. Now, if you can find somebody to put in a water heater for $300 labor, you know, that's probably pretty cheap. And the water heater itself, they're going to sell you one and mark it up. So you're going to save probably $100 on buying a water heater, right? Because you can go to Home Depot, buy a water heater, and you can bring it in your basement or in the apartment or whatever you're bringing it and hook it up yourself. And, you know, I can get a water heater probably within, I don't know, probably a couple hours. But you're going to save $300 in 2 hours. You know, it's not rocket science. You know, these guys aren't heart surgeons, you know, but they're getting heart surgeon rates, right? They're getting $200 an hour to do stuff. And it just is not worth it to pay somebody that kind of money when you can make it yourself.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So part of that equation, I imagine, has to be factoring in the proximity of these properties to your life. So are these properties all very convenient to where you live?
You know, that is the beauty. And the best investment property is one you can walk to. Mm-hmm. But having said that, 20 of my 25 renters live within 4 miles of me. So that helps. And there's a Home Depot halfway in between. So it's perfect from you know, when I'm going there, if I need to stop at Home Depot, I can stop at Home Depot and pick something up. And it does make it, you know, if you're living 30, 40, 50 miles away or across the country, it's almost impossible to do it all yourself.
Yeah, and my properties are all within 10 miles of each other. But even that, you know, it becomes a pretty big pain to get to one of my properties during rush hour across town after work. And I'm already starting to kind of resent going there when I have to deal with these small problems. So I think that that's a really important point if you're thinking about becoming a DIY landlord and doing the maintenance yourself and working on the properties, is proximity, because the farther every mile that gets added onto these properties, it's more and more of a pain. And that does, I think, compound over time into the financials of doing it yourself.
Exactly. But like I say, anything you can do yourself, because a property manager, and managing your property is a no-brainer, first of all, you know, because a property manager doesn't even do anything, right? All they do is take a call. They don't go out there and fix it. You know, everybody thinks, the property manager, they're going to handle everything. They're going to get the toilet calls at 2 a.m., which don't really happen. But anyway, so a property manager doesn't really do anything. All they do is answer the phone. And as long as you have phone access, right, you can be anywhere in the world and do it. because it doesn't matter. Nobody knows where you're at. They dial a 651 area code or whatever the number is, and you could be on a cruise ship in the Bahamas, or you could be up in Alaska, or you could be, across the street from them. So managing the property is no problem. And then having a list of contractors to call if you don't want to do it yourself, maybe that's another key, right? But Craigslist, Yellow Pages, whatever. I mean, because I know if I want to call a plumber, all I have to do is there's Farmington Plumbing and Heating. There's all kinds of advertisements on Craig's. All I have to do is call a name brand plumber and the Roto-Rooter, whatever, and they'll come out there and fix it. And it'll charge big money, but it'll get done. It'll get done right. No matter where I am in the world. So I might have something that might take 5 minutes and $10 for me to fix. But if I call a plumber, maybe it's $300. But that gives me the freedom to go anywhere. Same with the HVAC problem. I got HVAC people I can call. I generally fix my own HVAC stuff too, because I weed out the simple things, right? So I don't want to have somebody come there. And that's a whole nother deal. I had one guy that just give you a $185 mistake that I had. The tenants moved out, and I was in the unit, and we turned the heat on just to see if it worked. It wouldn't work. So then I did some simple things. It still wouldn't fix it. I called the HVAC guy, and he came out there, and he said, well, geez, is the gas on? Well, it wasn't on. Because,
Nice.
So it should have been in a landlord cutover status. The utility company didn't put it in there. They shut it off. And it turns out I did get my money back from the utility companies. But having said that, if a landlord can weed out the simple things, you don't have to know how to fix everything. But if you can weed out the simple things, it's going to save you a ton of money.
Yeah. Yesterday, I feel like an idiot. Yesterday, our landlord at the office here was in the building, and we're doing a rehab of our bathroom, and I was like, while we're at it, can we have the guys check out the water line to the water fountain, because that thing hasn't worked since we moved here. He walks over, takes the plug, puts it in the wall, and it starts working. And I'm like, what? Oh no, terrible. All right.
BiggerPockets is the idiot tenant in that scenario.
Yes, of course. All right. So,
but there's so many things. Even at one where the tenant, she had one of these self-ringing mops or whatever with a D handle kind of that you grab a hold of, and when they put it in the closet, which is also where the furnace is, there's a light switch there. And when the light switch, anyway, that D handle caught the light switch and turned the furnace off. So then they call me and say, hey, the furnace doesn't work. What's going on now?
Every time I mop.
Well, now if I wouldn't have been there, or if I wasn't close enough to go do that, that would have been another $185 call probably, or something similar. So, just being able to at least rule out some simple things makes a huge difference.
Makes sense.
And I suspect that your handiness, your ability to handle these problems a lot on your own comes in very useful when you are away and traveling and you get one of those calls, because you know who to call and you know when you're getting a good deal or getting ripped off and to move on to the next contractor. That's, I think, something that folks that are afraid to do it yourself are going to lose out on.
Not only that, but I've coached tenants through a lot of things as well. So I had one where, as a matter of fact, it was this winter. So he said, in these fourplexes, the water heaters are on the main level on the bottom floor, and it's cement floor with a floor drain. So it's not terrible when a water heater leaks. But he said, the water heater's leaking. So I said, well, send me a video or a picture of what's happening. So he sent me a little video, magic of cell phones. And I saw that it was leaking out of the overflow, the pressure relief valve. So I said, well, go down to the water heater and take that pressure relief valve and flip it back and forth a few times. So he did that, and it stopped the water. Then I also told him, now turn the thermostat down on the hot water heater so it doesn't get quite as hot. And that solved it enough so that it wasn't leaking. And then when I came back, I changed that pressure relief valve.
Yeah.
But simple things like that you can do, and that probably saved $300 or more.
So Eric, how many units do you have today?
I have 25 renters, and it's kind of divided up into. I got 5 fourplexes, a couple duplexes, and 1 single-family house.
Got it. Cool. And where are you going? Like what's the goal? I mean, you don't need a job anymore. You go to Branson or Ozark. I don't know what you're doing there. I watch the show, so
yeah.
There's some shady activity supposedly in that neck of the woods. But what's the plan? Are you going to just keep buying properties? Are you done? You can just live off these and do your thing, or where are you going?
I generally have plenty to live on. I'm actually I just bought a new truck and I'm going to get a fifth wheel and we're going to do a little more vacationing.
Yeah, buddy.
Get away in the wintertime for sure. But I'm not really actively looking to buy any at this point. However, if one falls in my lap, I certainly am not afraid to buy it. Like my latest single family house was one that kind of came to mind. People need to know you're a real estate investor, first of all, right? Because if they don't know, then when deals come up, they don't think of you to call to bail them out or to bail their friend out or whatever. So, and this has a little bit to do with creative financing too, or creative buying. So my tenants called me up and said, "Are you looking to buy any more houses?" Well, I'm always looking to buy houses, but I'm not looking to buy houses retail, and I'm looking to make money, right? Back to your original question, I'm going to slowly weed some properties out and buy some. What I want to do is buy a vacation property in like Florida, right? Something that I can rent out on weekends and by the month or whatever, by the week, by the month, for about 2 years. And then I'm going to maybe move into it myself is kind of what I'm thinking.
Got it.
Because it needs to be with a 1031 exchange.
Got it.
That's kind of what my hope is.
Nice. All right, Eric. This is great. And to everybody listening, I love doing shows like this. This is fairly different than a lot of the shows that we do because we don't often get a ton of really, really true DIY guys. And you are DIY all the way. And it's awesome. Like, again, the point being there's not just one way to skin a cat, right? You can be whatever you want to be. You can invest the way you want to invest. If it works, and it obviously is working for you, you obviously have replaced your income. You've got the lifestyle that you want, and you get to do the one thing that you like doing, which is, putzing around in these houses and fixing stuff up. Gives you something to do. That's fantastic. You created this lifestyle that you want, and that's the beauty of real estate. It gives you the opportunity to do that, or like, hey, I want to be completely, hands-free. I don't want to get my hands dirty, or, there's so many pathways that you can take as a real estate investor.
That's a tremendous way to look at it. And, when I say do-it-yourself stuff, and earlier I know you asked about how I learned some of this stuff. If you hire somebody, like I hired a painter, it was actually a friend of mine, but I hired him, and I work with him for the day, you learn so many things, that it's all about technique, really, is a lot of this do-it-yourself. I used to hire a furnace guy. We installed a couple, 3 furnaces together. I realized, it's not that hard to install a furnace.
Yeah.
Install one. You can save $200 an hour. Yeah. So, but you're right. Real estate there's so many different avenues that you can take in it. You can flip houses. You can be a landlord. I like the landlord stuff just because it's good residual income. But there's a ton of ways you can do it. You can be a developer, anything.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, with that, why don't we move on to today's fire round?
It's time for the fire round.
As a quick reminder, the questions from the fire round come from our forums, and we're going to ask 4 or 5 of them. The first of those questions is a property management question. I've just recently taken over managing my properties from a property manager, only to find smoke alarms chirping and no furnace filters have been changed out ever. My question, do you charge your tenants for filters and batteries, or simply expect them to take care of it themselves?
I do not charge for filters and batteries. I do expect them to take care of themselves. Having said that, they probably don't, right? They ideally they would change the filters in the furnaces. They need to be changed, but I pulled them out too. Like I just pulled one out. The tenants moved out. They were there 5 years. I don't think the damn thing had been changed at all. It was solid, right?
Whoops.
Sometimes they get crumpled up and then the air goes around them. But you're right. And smoke detectors, they should change the battery, but by law, I'm responsible for it. And if somebody dies, then it's not going to be good. So the landlord should make damn sure that those things are working.
Absolutely. So, another pathetic story of Josh. One was the water fountain. 2, last week, I'm like, I don't think I've changed the filters in my house, and my reminder to change the house HVAC filters had not gone off of late. So I crawled up into the attic where there's this 2 units, one in the attic, one in the basement, went up to one in the attic, and I definitively had not changed the filters in probably 6 months. So I changed it, and I was like, this isn't good. we get our electric bill yesterday, $100 more than it should have been. $100 more than it should have been, and was we could think of nothing other than it had to be the HVAC on overload, just trying to push air through when that thing was just completely stopped up. So there's your lesson. Make sure you get your filters clean, and don't be an idiot like me.
My tenants pay electricity.
Well, yeah. Well, I am my own tenant, so yeah. There you go. All right, next question. I'm curious what other landlords do for holding or what do you do for holding deposit fees? Regarding, let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to. There's a lot of questions. There's like 18 questions in here. Do you have a fee that you use for when somebody leaves a deposit, and how much is it, and what do you call it, and does it get credit towards rent? How about that?
Okay, so when my tenants apply for an apartment, because I overheard you say holding fee deposit,
yep.
They give me an application fee and also a holding fee, right, of $1,000 just for me to hold the unit.
Yep.
And I generally don't even like to take an application unless I get that money. I used to say, well, I'll waive the application fee if you give me $1,000 with the application, but now I don't even do that because it's there's just so many tenants. I don't have to. Having said that, that is a little trick that somebody can use to maybe sway a tenant to apply and lock them in with that $1,000. That does get applied to rent or deposit, and I hold the deposit until everybody in the apartment is moved out.
Got it.
I don't know if that answered the question or not, but I do use it.
It's a great answer. It's a very confusingly asked question. So well played.
Okay,
Scott.
All right. When you're turning over a unit after a tenant moves out, what does it typically cost you? Do you budget for that? Do you have a certain percentage that you kind of allot to a normal turnover event?
I don't have a specific cost. And if I turn the apartment myself, it costs very, very little. There's obviously some cleaning, which you could say is free. There might be some touch-up paint. Now, on this one I'm doing right now is a full paint, so it's, it might be $100 worth of paint. Trying to think what else I did. I fixed a lot of small things. Bought a new patio, sliding screen door. It's $50 or whatever. There really isn't. When you do it yourself, there's just so much less expense to. But you can probably figure $1,000 to turn a unit if you're paying it. Because it's going to cost $400 or $500 to clean it and paint it, and plus fix whatever else is the matter with it.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that. When I do this for my properties, I usually have about $180 to $200 cleaning bill, and I don't like to do the cleaning. So I'll have the cleaners come, and while they're there, I'll try to show the property and take care of some of the problems, some of the little things I noticed, like maybe a handle and a drawer is missing, or there's I need a new cover for one of the vents or something like that. So those are the kinds of things I like to do while I'm there to save some money and keep that turnover low for myself.
Yeah, and if you clean yourself, like actually my girlfriend helps clean. Actually, she does most of it. And then when she finds something like a loose handle, then she calls me over and I fix it right away. Whether it's a tub handle or a drawer handle, because if you don't fix those things, the tenant's going to move in, and then they're going to fall off. And now you can't just turn it with a screwdriver. Now you got to fill the hole and make it work, right? Or put a different screw in there or a different handle. So catching stuff early is a huge thing. And I try to fix everything that I can possibly think of that's even partially broke. Like the toilet paper holder was, screwed to the wall, but it was loose, the part that holds the roll in. So I had to take the toilet paper roll off the wall, which actually tore quite a bit of the wall off, and put bigger screws in there. But now it's bulletproof. Yeah. Because it's not going to fall off the first week the tenant is there. Tenants don't like that either. They don't want to move into a place and find out that it's, things are breaking.
Yeah.
So,
sure. Well, and then you get a really crappy reputation. So, we definitely discourage half-assing things, and
right.
Doing it the right way here at BiggerPockets is the way to go. So, awesome. All right. Last question of the fire round. What's the best flooring to use? And I guess that's a really broad question. Let's say, what are your preferred flooring for, let's say, kitchen and then everything else?
For the bedrooms, I use carpet because I think people get up in the morning or whatever, they want to walk on carpet. But that's the only place. And carpet in the bedroom really doesn't get walked on much because people are very seldom in the bedroom. And when they are, they're in the bed. And in a bedroom, it's covered with beds and dressers and everything else. any place like a hallway, living room, dining room, I prefer to have laminate. And I know there's some vinyl laminate out there that I haven't. Well, I've used some vinyl laminate for the kitchen, but there's some wood grain vinyl that might be good for a living room, dining room, but I haven't used it. But I have used, like, it's a product by Home Depot. It's called Allure. It's got sticky on two sides on each one, and they kind of all stick together. In the bathrooms, I put tile, and I put a 4-inch tile baseboard on the edge. So instead of for your molding or whatever you call it, and then I put just this most recent one for the top of the tile, rather than buy bullnose tile, which are expensive, and you never know how many you're going to need because they break. They make a little cap that comes on there. Otherwise, I used to put just like a 45-degree angle with grout. But now with the, I just for the first time used one of these. It's just a plastic or vinyl. It's like $5 for 8 feet, kind of a thing. You put that on top of the tile, it makes it look good.
There you go.
So,
nice. Awesome. All right. Awesome. Well, I think it's time for the famous four.
All right. Question number 1. What is your favorite real estate book?
Favorite real estate book? Good question, because I don't read too many real estate books. But, I have read some stuff by Dave Lindahl.
Nice. Cool. All right. What about business book? Favorite business book?
Good question. Like I say, you assume that I'm reading all these books. I mostly just kind of read my stuff on the internet, but I'm just trying to think some of the books that I have read in the past that have really kind of made my, I can't even think of a good business book at this point. So sorry about that.
No, it's all good, man. All right. No books. Just we'll just say BiggerPockets, right?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
To tell you the truth, when I was early on, how I found BiggerPockets, I was searching for something. I can't remember what I was searching for, but something to do with making money in real estate, obviously, or something. And up came BiggerPockets, and I read a ton of articles, and it was amazing the amount of information that was out there. And I want to say there was a guy in Minnesota that actually started Renter's Warehouse that, and I can't remember his name, but I do have his phone number in my phone, that because I have talked to him in the past. He wrote an article, and it was pretty amazing as well. And I think that, then I started going to BiggerPockets all the time, just reading whatever new articles were there. And I wasn't even aware of all the different sections of BiggerPockets, but there was plenty of good articles that I did read. It was pretty good.
Awesome. Well, and now on occasion you write for us, which is great.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what about hobbies? What do you like to do for fun outside of real estate?
I like. Good question. I used to like to do a lot of hunting and fishing, and I was a falconer for a long time. So I used to hunt with my red-tailed hawk.
Get out of here.
It was kind of fun. Yeah, it actually was a blast.
Do you have like video
That's
of
awesome.
you falconing?
No video, but probably some pictures. So it is pretty fun.
Could you send us along a couple of those pictures so we can put them in the show notes?
I can do that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Assuming I can find them.
Yeah.
But I'll find something. I like to travel. I like to see different things. Kind of one of my goals now is to see every national park out there. I just got done seeing, we stopped at Mount Rushmore. Not that that's a national park, but we stopped at Mount Rushmore. While we were there, we saw Wind Cave. Yep. We saw Wind Cave National Park. We saw Little Bighorn Battlefield. Then we went up to Glacier National Park. Even though there was fires, it was still impressive.
Yep.
And then on the way back, we stopped at Teddy Roosevelt National Park.
Sweet.
So we saw 3 in this past thing. But yeah, so I just like to travel, and I want to see as much of the United States as I can, and maybe at some point go to some safe country if there is one overseas. Like, I don't know, maybe Hawaii. No, I used to live in Hawaii, so I know that's the United States. But
you got the fifth wheel now. I've got an RV this year, and so we started to explore the parks ourselves. We hit Rushmore and Devil's Tower and Badlands and Glacier and Yellowstone and Teton. Yeah, it's amazing. Like I never really had a chance to see parks growing up, and getting to experience those as an adult, it's kind of an addiction. You're like, oh, I want the next one. I want the next one. So yeah, it's great.
And of course, Josh learned how to change out the poop tank in the RV.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that's.
And actually, I don't have my fifth wheel yet, but it's I've been negotiating with some people, and some of these negotiations have been going on for quite a while.
She's winning, huh?
The sellers.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't want to buy one and have it be worth less next year.
That will.
Yeah, but if you buy it right, maybe 1 year you get for free. Right. So I'm kind of, and I've been working with some other folks, or like this one, I made an offer. I think it was in March, and we're still, here it is October. He still hasn't sold it, so we're a lot closer on price than we were, and I think I'm going to be able to get that one here pretty soon.
We'll keep trying.
Yeah,
keep trying. Cool. Last question.
Well, last question of the famous four here is: what sets apart successful investors from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
I think it's the drive and the determination and the ambition, right? So if you have a poor outlook on life and something happens, you think, oh, it'll never happen, or I can't do that. And I can't say that I've never had that feeling, right? Because there's times you think, my God, am I ever making money on these real estate things? Because, I'd buy one and I'd spend money fixing it up, and I'd have to buy another one and working 100-hour weeks for forever, it seemed. But it's being able to take those setbacks and say, have a positive attitude and just keep pushing forward. Knowing that you have to take some risks, right? Real estate's a ton of money. But having said that, it's a ton of risk as well. But you can mitigate that risk by, tenant screening, buying at the right price, not being undercapitalized. You can do a lot of things that will help you mitigate that risk. But at the end of it all, you have to have a positive attitude.
Yeah.
Without that positive attitude, you're never going to make it. And it doesn't matter real estate or building baskets, right? You got to have a positive attitude and know you can do it, and just keep pushing forward.
Yes. Agreed. Scott, just have a positive attitude about those baskets you're weaving, man. You got this.
Yep.
You got this.
I will.
Eric, it's been a pleasure, man. Where can people find out more about you? Where can they connect with you?
My blog out at nonsenselandlord.com is probably as good. There's a contact me page. You can read some of my articles. I'm a little behind on some articles, but I got a bunch in my head. I just got to put out there.
Nice.
And yeah, feel free.
Cool. And of course, you're also on BiggerPockets, so they could.
I am on BiggerPockets.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
And there's a contact, or there's a way to contact me there as well. And I get an email when somebody does send an email, so that works.
Awesome. Well, listen, lots of luck. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you around the community.
Well, thank you very much, Scott and Josh. It's been first time I've actually met you guys or seen you. So it's I've seen a lot of your articles and different things on BiggerPockets, but first time I've actually seen you. So it's kind of a neat thing. Amazing.
Fantastic.
Thing, right?
Yeah, it was fantastic to meet you as well. And I've like Josh mentioned, I've been a fan of your writing. So
well, thank you.
I really like it.
Right on. All right, guys, that was Eric Drenckhahn. Big thanks to Eric for coming on the show. Scott, was it everything you thought it would be and more?
It was everything I hoped for. I told you I'm a big fan of this guy. He's been blogging for BiggerPockets for a while now, and you can just tell that he has so much direct experience dealing with tenant issues, dealing with landlording problems, analyzing deals. Again, I mentioned this in the intro. I'll mention it again. This is the type of person that I like to network with, because that plethora of experience is just something that I can never replicate, no matter how many books I read, no matter how many podcasts I listen to. Yeah. That direct hands-on experience in the field, it's really irreplaceable.
Agreed. Yeah, it's awesome. So as Scott mentioned up in the upfront, get out there, make sure to reach out to folks like this in your local area. Just getting to know them. You can't help but benefit your investing business by befriending folks like Eric, active investors in your area who've got experience, and obviously you have to make it worth their while. These guys get hit up constantly with requests from people to connect. So what are you going to do? What are you going to say to them that's going to get them to sit down with you that everyone else hasn't already done or said? So think about that when you reach out. But awesome, man. Listen, great show. Lots of great tips. Again, the DIY thing is it's yet another arrow in the quiver. It's another path that you can take as a real estate investor. And our job here on the BiggerPockets podcast is to introduce you to as many ideas and pathways as possible. And it's up to you, the listener, to decide what works for you, what's going to be the best path for you and your family, what's going to take you to your why. And so we hope you found this valuable. Thank you for listening. Scott, why don't you take it out, man? Do you even know what to say? All right, I'm Scott
With the
Trench.
BiggerPockets podcast, this is Scott Trench.
And I'm Josh
Signing
Dorkin. Signing off.
You're listening to Bigger Pockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
It's time for the Random Six.
All right, so it's time for the Random Six, where we ask you 6 completely random questions so our users can get to know you and know a little bit more about you. So first question I have for you is, who would you want in your lifeboat? If you just had a lifeboat to save one person on Earth, who would it be?
I got to make sure the other half isn't looking here, but
all right, let's assume she's in there. Who else would you want? Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because if you want to have an interesting discussion, you want somebody famous, not really famous, but somebody that's done it, like a Warren Buffett or a Trump or a, I don't know, somebody has a lot of good information that you can talk to. Having said that, if you're in a lifeboat and you know, where are we going? Are we going to a deserted island and that's where you're going to live forever? Or is it just to be saved and we're back in society?
Just pick a person.
Because that might make a difference too.
Yeah, I suppose. Oh, and
see, I'd want the best rower in the world in my lifeboat. That would be.
That's a good answer.
We'll say Warren. Let's say Warren Buffett. How about that? That would make for some good conversations. All right.
Because he could definitely tell you. I mean, because he's definitely successful.
Yeah.
You know,
Scott.
I'd go with.
Oh no, I don't care what you think. What's the next question?
Oh, next question. Oh. Oopsies. All right. Which of your 5 senses would you say is your strongest?
I would say sight. You know, and
this coming from a guy with Coke bottle glasses, by the way.
Yeah, actually, no, these are just reading glasses, actually.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, I can't see you guys on the screen if I don't have my reading glasses on. So they're only like 1.5 hour reading glasses for $3 that I buy them for.
That's not bad.
So I'm not going to spend the money on some fancy glasses. You guys probably wear contacts. That's why you don't have glasses on.
I got perfect vision, although I am starting to use those 1.5s when I read at night. So
see, that's the problem when you get old, you know, and they say around 45 years old, you start to wear the reading glasses. So,
yeah. All right. So, next question, summer or winter, which is better? Why?
You know, I like summer better than winter. Although when I was younger, I liked winter better because, you know, it was invigorating, right? And it's still sort of invigorating, but I don't need as much invigoration as I used to maybe because it's just too damn cold. And then here in Minnesota, you know, Minnesota, we get winters, right? Oh, yeah. You guys in Colorado, that's nothing, man. That's not even winter, man.
This is true. When I was a boy, I would walk 2 miles to school uphill in the snow. Yeah,
that's right.
Both ways.
Each way. But you know, I actually like fall and spring better, but I do like the summer better than the winter anymore. You know, it's
awesome, Scott.
So.
Awesome. So, do you stand or walk up escalators? And there is a right answer.
Yes,
I generally walk up them.
Yeah, there you
go. Good.
That is correct.
Unless there's people in the way. You know, sometimes on the escalator, there's people in the way. Now, when you go to an airport.
That's when you push them.
Yeah. So if you go to an airport, they got the people movers, you know, the flat escalators, you could say. Those are cool because you can really move when you're walking on those. And there's a line in the middle to say, get off to the side.
Yep.
Right? And, man, you can really move on those things. But, yeah, I generally try to walk up them if I can.
Right on. All right, my last question. What is your favorite board game?
Monopoly. I've liked Monopoly since I was a kid. I used to like chess too, though. You know, chess is a good game. It's probably a toss between chess and, although I haven't played either for many years, but Monopoly or chess is always...
Get back out there, man. Get playing.
I used to be a pretty solid chess player.
Nice.
Are you a good cook?
You know, when I was in high school and shortly after, I was a cook at a restaurant, you could say, and actually owned a little bar restaurant. But, you know, I could make whatever, but not
Nobody
really,
wants to eat it.
I make the easy stuff. You know, if I can't do it in the microwave, I generally don't do it.
Nice.
Generally, my life is too fast that I don't have time to stop and make stuff, right? So maybe throw a couple eggs in a pan. That's about the biggest cooking I do.
Sweet.
See, I make very elaborate dishes that have a lot of love and care going into them, and then they taste terrible, even after all that. So maybe I should switch to the microwave.
Yeah, do that.
Nice.
Microwave, or like I say, if it can't be done in 2-3 minutes, it probably ain't worth making.
Perfect. All right, Eric, thanks so much.